Tonight on NewsWatch, China's underground church goes public. See how things are changing for Christians in this communist nation. Plus, Israel's elite defense forces, where men and women train side by side. And we take you to New Zealand, where one town is keeping the lights down low so everyone can enjoy the night sky. All this and more tonight on NewsWatch. Good evening, I'm Jennifer Wishon. Radical Muslims may have been just hours away from launching a bloody terrorist attack on a famous Danish newspaper when authorities in Denmark and Sweden foiled their plot. Lori Johnson has the details.
At a joint news conference, top Danish and Swedish security officials talked about their police thwarting an alleged terrorist attack by Tunisian, Lebanese, and Iraqi Muslim extremists. The head of Denmark's intelligence service says the men were apparently going to attack the newsroom of the paper that published cartoons of Mohammed back in 2005, inciting days of demonstrations in the Muslim world and at least 4 other failed attacks on the paper or cartoonist. The Danish security officials said the 5 suspects arrested so far are militant Islamists with ties to international terror networks. The alleged plan was to gain access to the newsroom and kill as many of the people there as possible. The Swedish and Danish officials said 4 of the men were arrested in Copenhagen and 1 in Stockholm, Sweden. They stated police also seized ammunition, a silencer, and a submachine gun. These officials believe the suspects may have been just hours away from attacking the newsroom. Lori Johnson, CBN News.
Former Delaware Senate candidate and Tea Party darling Christine O'Donnell says she did not misuse campaign funds. Reports indicate federal authorities have launched a criminal investigation to look into whether O'Donnell illegally used campaign money to pay personal bills. O'Donnell told ABC's Good Morning America that she did not misuse funds and calls scrutiny of her spending a thug political tactic. She says neither she nor her campaign have been informed of a federal investigation. O'Donnell catapulted onto the national stage after winning Delaware's Republican primary for the U.S. Senate, beating longtime Delaware Congressman Mike Castle. While the Northeast is digging out from snow, California is recovering from massive mudslides caused by heavy rains and snow. It's been a rough holiday season for residents in western states. People in places like hard-hit Highland, California have just about had it.
It's been hard. We can't sleep. We're having a hard time to eat. It's just one thing after another right now.
Southern California residents continue digging out from mudslides after another round of rain and snow fell on the already soggy state.
We're going to be here digging our hearts out today.
As the storm clouds closed in, people worked frantically to prepare any way they could, like stuffing 100,000 sandbags.
We have done everything we can. We've provided every safety measure we can, but we can't control Mother Nature, and we saw her wrath last week.
After heavy storms, rivers of mud and muck slid into dozens of homes before Christmas. 50 homes that were evacuated last week remain unlivable.
It's really dangerous. This is scary.
This horse stuck in a mud hole near Lake Matthews demonstrates just how dangerous the situation is. It took rescuers 4 hours to pull the horse out of the muck.
1, 2, 3.
Officials say the ground in so much of California is so saturated, there'll be the danger of mudslides and flows of debris through the end of winter. But it could have been worse. This latest round of storms was not as severe as some predicted. The post-Christmas blizzard delayed $1 billion in retail spending, but only by a day or 2. Many shoppers braved icy conditions to avoid missing the after-Christmas sales.
It was worth it, yeah, definitely.
Who doesn't love snow?
As long as the credit card's swiping, we're in business.
Meanwhile, online shopping is increasing. Those sales are up 13% from last year. Research shows that this holiday shopping season is expected to be the best since 2007. The last 2 years of Congress have been the most expensive in history. The government added more than $3 trillion in debt. That adds up to more than $10,000 for every person in the U.S. The total national debt is now nearly $14 trillion, which comes to nearly $45,000 for everyone in America. President Obama and his family won't be returning to Washington as soon as expected. The first family decided to extend its Hawaiian vacation a few more days. The president got a late start on his holiday R&R after staying in Washington to work on legislation in Congress before the year ended. A spokesman for the president says he wants to spend more time with his wife and daughters before returning to work, even though his daughters will miss a couple days of school. The first family will fly back to Washington on January 3rd. An Israel court found former Israeli President Moshe Katsav guilty of 2 counts of rape and sexual harassment charges. He was convicted of raping a woman while with Israel's tourism ministry and of sexual harassment while he was president. Katsav has claimed innocence from the beginning, calling the charges against him a political witch hunt. He plans to appeal the conviction. The 65-year-old remains free until his sentencing. He faces no less than 4 years in prison. In Nigeria, 3 people have been wounded in another attack by members of a radical Muslim sect. It's the same group of Muslims blamed for attacks on churches that killed 6 people on Christmas Eve and bomb blasts that killed 32 people on the same day. The chairman of the U.S. Commission on International Religious Freedom says nearly 14,000 people have died in religious violence in Nigeria over the past 12 years. Back in the U.S., an atheist group in Washington is protesting that atheists aren't being invited to take part in a prayer service. The service is called One City Praying Together. It's the first official event at the new D.C. mayor's inauguration this Sunday. The group Secular Coalition for America complains that it's overtly discriminatory to exclude atheists from a service meant to unite all of D.C. They say they believe they can be part of a prayer service without actually praying and without believing in the God that everyone else there will be praying to. Most cities and towns greet the night by lighting up their streets and buildings. But one town in New Zealand is doing everything it can to keep itself in the dark. Wendy Griffith traveled to New Zealand to find out why.
In the book of Genesis, it says God created the sun, the moon, and the stars to give light to the earth. And he said it was good. But in many parts of the world, stars are hard to see because of too much light at night. But not in Tekapo, New Zealand.
It's becoming increasingly difficult to find the dark places on Earth, simply because urban light pollution is taking away the stars.
Located in the center of New Zealand's South Island, Tekapo is fighting to preserve its night skies. Hundreds of astrotourists come each week to the Mount John Observatory to view something that's becoming quite rare in certain parts of the world: stars.
25% of the world's population cannot actually see the stars, not at all, which is a dreadful situation, really. You get a whole generation of children growing up who've never actually seen the sky at all.
In this amazing time-lapse photography, you can see Tekapo's Church of the Good Shepherd under the Milky Way and the Southern Cross, a small but beautiful constellation that can only be seen in the Southern Hemisphere. Only a small percentage of the world can actually see the Milky Way, but here in Tekapo, New Zealand, they get to see it almost every night.
Well, that is our own galaxy, you might say. That's the one that we're most familiar with. But there are millions, if not billions, of stars, anywhere between, I believe, 100 to 500 billion stars within that own galaxy.
From Mount John, you can also observe 2 neighboring galaxies known as the Magellanic Clouds, each containing billions of stars. But that's not the only work going on here.
The main line of research up here is into the discovery of so-called extrasolar planets. That is, planets going around other stars, stars other than our sun, that is. So to date, we know of around about 330 planets going around other stars.
Guests are awestruck by Tekapo's night sky, like these 2 young travelers from Ireland.
I thought it was absolutely amazing, I have to say. Especially coming from a city where you don't get to see many stars in the sky. It was absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, it just makes you think that there's so much out there that you don't know. And looking up there, you do feel closer to God, but you also like there's so much unknown that that you want to learn more about.
During tours of this state-of-the-art facility, astronomers say people often have emotional reactions to seeing the stars.
I remember particularly a couple from Australia just recently who came here. And one of those ladies actually wept with joy at the prospect of seeing the Milky Way for the first time, something she'd never even thought she would see.
In hopes of protecting their night sky for future generations, this town of around 400 people has mandated special lighting, low-energy sodium lamps that are carefully shielded, and household lights that must face down, not up. But they're hoping to go even further by becoming the world's first UN-sanctioned starlight reserve, or what they like to call a park in the sky.
We went to the university and we shared this vision of a park in the sky, which is quite a dubious type of vision to be walking around with. And then suddenly we're at Paris and we're at UNESCO and we're having doors opened and people think, oh, that's not such a silly idea.
The idea still faces challenges, as it would be the first time a piece of open sky was designated as a World Heritage Park. So if this Starlight Reserve is given the go-ahead, Tekapo and Mount John will be kept in the dark for generations to come. And that's exactly the way they like it. Wendy Griffith, CBN News, Tekapo, New Zealand.
Coming up, a rare look at one of Israel's unique infantry units and why it's recognized around the world for its training.
Hi, Anthony Sullivan here for ShaveMate. All-in-one razors, Titan for men, Diva for women. Simplify your shaving, simplify your life. ShaveMate razors combine 6 premium blades and thick, rich, real shaving cream right inside the handle. So you'll never have to deal with the mess of cans of shaving cream again. ShaveMate is the perfect shaving solution for home, the gym, a business trip, or vacation.
It's everything in this one little package. It's perfect.
You get a great shave every time. I think it's going to change the way everybody shaves.
Order right now, and I won't just double the value, I'll triple it. Absolutely free. We'll even include our convenient shower hook. You get a total of 3 shave mates in your choice of Titan or Diva, and the shower hook, all for only $9.99. Here's how to order.
Order now. Call 1-800-655-8514 or go to ShaveMate.com. That's 1-800-655-8514 or go to ShaveMate.com.
If you have diabetes and you're on Medicare, call now for a new pain-free meter. These new meters are more accurate, they're easier to use, and the best news is you don't have to prick your fingers anymore. Call now and Arriva Medical will send you one of these new meters for free. And if you have Medicare, your testing supplies may also be covered. Arriva makes it simple. They bill Medicare directly. There are no upfront costs. And they deliver your supplies right to your door for free. With these new meters, there's no coding, you don't have to prick your fingers, and some of these meters even talk.
Your blood glucose reading is 122.
And if you call 1-800-284-9762, we will send you a free Betty Crocker Diabetes Cookbook filled with delicious recipes.
Call Arriva today. You'd be glad you did.
Israel's chief rabbis are calling on the country to fight the abortion epidemic. Ynet News reports a committee of rabbis met 3 years ago to look into the issue of abortion. They found that around 50,000 abortions are carried out each year in Israel. Since then, rabbis across Israel have given an Exodus sermon. During the sermon, they bring up the biblical prohibition against killing fetuses. In a nation surrounded by enemies, military preparedness is crucial. Israel's defense forces recognized around the world for its training. Chris Mitchell joined one of Israel's unique infantry units for a rare look inside.
This is a war game, deep in the heart of Israel's Negev desert. This unit is participating in a live fire exercise. It's conventional training that every soldier in the IDF does. But this unit is very unconventional. This group is called Karakal. It's Israel's only combat unit that combines men and women. CBN News followed them on a combat simulation designed to storm and capture multiple hilltops. The training is real, rigorous, and uses live ammunition. They're preparing for a real-life scenario. Here's a sample. The men and women fight side by side. working together, passing ammunition. When the exercise ended and darkness fell, we spoke with one of the unit's female soldiers.
Well, what you guys filmed today, usually I have a lot of fun doing it, running and, and I hear all the shooting over my head and I can really feel myself running and pushing myself, forward. I love that.
Sarah Odenheimer felt drawn to the unit after hearing stories of Israel's famous soldiers.
They were talking to me about loving the country and protecting the country and all these stories about the soldiers who threw their life for the country or for their friends. And this is the unit that I can do it the best in.
The young women seem willing to suffer the same hardships as the men, but there are obvious challenges.
There's the sleeping arrangements that always have to be set separate, and it's a little extra here and there to make everything separate, but other than that, it's fine.
Caracal is one of the combat units where girls have the chance to do something else, in the 2-3 years of service, and give something more to the state of Israel.
With Israel's enemies like Hamas and Hezbollah preparing for war, it's possible this unit may find itself on the battlefield sometime in the not-too-distant future. Chris Mitchell, CBN News, somewhere in the Negev Desert.
Up next, China's underground church comes out in the open.
Merry Christmas from CBN News and season's greetings from our troops.
Hi, we're the Aquino family, currently stationed in Camp Carroll, Korea. We'd like to wish the Wong family in Milani, Hawaii, happy holidays.
Hi, we're the Jagodinskis from Vilseck, Germany, wishing our friends and family in Terre Haute, Indiana, Merry Christmas. Say Merry Christmas, guys!
CBNNews.com. News you want, when you want, 24/7. Stay current with up-to-the-minute stories.
David Brody, CBN News, Capitol Hill.
I don't have to wait for my news anymore. CBNNews.com at your fingertips all day long.
I only watch the stories I want to see. I find the story, I click on it, and boom, I'm there.
I'm Chris Mitchell reporting from Jerusalem.
The source for your news, CBNNews.com.
The doctor came in. I was still waking up from anesthesia. He leaned over my bed and he said, "Laura, you have cancer." And he walked out of the room. The first thought is, what's going to happen to my children?
It's pretty rare for a person as young as me to get Hodgkin's disease. Well, you would think, am I going to be here next year? Am I going to be able to spend more time with my family? And that was really hard.
The doctor says I would like to have his wife, his pastor, and his 2 best friends present. Then you know you're about to receive really bad news. There was very little hope given to us.
I just wanted this cancer out of me. I wanted to take care of it and move on.
We saw an ad on TV for Cancer Treatment Centers of America, and when I called them, I was very surprised that they were so quick to help us.
The second that we walked through the door, I knew that was the place that I wanted to be. If it wasn't for their kindness and giving, it would be unbearable to be able to go through something like that, and I honestly don't know how people who don't get that are able to handle it.
We were looking for medical care that would help us fight cancer, not manage it, but to actually fight it and beat it, and that's what we found.
Most people thought that that was a death sentence. I knew that I wanted to fight this. I knew I wasn't going to let that happen to me.
If you're a winner and you're a fighter and you're strong, you're going to stay that way. Your mental makeup, your attitude that you've taken your whole life with you, you're going to keep that attitude.
I said, let's just do it, and let me go on with my life.
Call now and we'll send you this free DVD that shows you how the most compassionate group of people anywhere puts you at the center of everything we do. Advanced medical treatment combined with unique supportive therapies give you treatment options you may not even know exist.
Cancer Treatment Centers of America is the way of the future. Patients are now taking control of their own healthcare destiny.
I truly wondered when he had cancer if I would ever get him back. Thanks to Cancer Treatment Centers of America, I have my husband back.
For decades, they faced arrest, torture, and death for their faith. Today, Chinese Christians are getting bolder, though, about sharing their faith openly. And now, one of the largest underground churches in Beijing has decided to go public. George Thomas got exclusive access to their leaders and meetings and reports from Beijing.
On a recent Sunday morning,
a few blocks from Beijing's financial district. Hundreds of Christians gathered to worship God.
20 years ago, we would have never permitted you to film our meeting. But today, China is changing, and the church has to change as well.
Jin Tiangming pastors one of the largest so-called underground churches in Beijing. This is the first time since founding his church 17 years ago that he's opened the service to cameras.
We worship in secret for years. We were spread out across the city, meeting in different people's homes.
Then a couple of years ago, the church decided to come out of hiding. They rented space in a small office building and began meeting together in one location. Liu Gan is an elder in the church.
We brought all the small house churches together in one place, even though it was a huge security risk. But this was an important first step.
Next, they went public.
We felt that God was calling our church to be a city on a hill, a light on the mountaintop. To do this, we had to open up.
Members began openly inviting non-believers to the meetings. The church began to grow. Liu says some 1,000 people regularly attend the weekly service, and often it's standing room only.
In my church, we gathered so many members of Christians. They all have the passion. They want to be a good witness to the society.
Such open proselytizing is still forbidden in China. Technically, this is also an illegal gathering, since the church hasn't registered with the government, nor is it part of any of the state-sanctioned churches. But the authorities have chosen to turn a blind eye.
Today is Communist China's new and global manifesto, militant and menacing.
It's a far cry from the dark days of the Cultural Revolution, when authorities burned churches, temples and mosques to the ground. Pastors and Christians were routinely arrested and labeled counter-revolutionaries. Today, Chinese government data and international surveys report millions of Chinese people are flocking to religions like Christianity, Buddhism, Taoism and Islam. But it's Christianity that's experiencing the most dramatic growth.
Trying to get precise figures on the number of Christians today in China is extremely difficult, but clearly they are part of mainstream society today. All the more experts say that Christians, especially those who are part of the so-called house church, go public.
Recently, Shuang Church did something that would have been unthinkable decades ago. They began holding secret talks with government authorities in Beijing, including with members of the city's security bureau.
In our perspective, we are making progress, and we are having dialogue with them better and better.
But this is a church that has faced its share of challenges. You see, a couple of years ago, they were looking for a new home, in essence, because they were growing so fast. They found a location, they had approached a landlord with a price, and the landlord agreed. They paid the money, but then the authorities began to put pressure on the landlord.
The government didn't want us to move into this new location, so they started harassing the landlord not to sell us the property.
On November 1st, 2009, in the middle of a bitter winter storm and with no suitable place to meet, 500 members of Shuang Church met in an outdoor park to worship and publicly protest the government's pressure.
We wanted the authorities to know that our goal was to meet in one place. We had found a place, and we didn't want to go back to meeting in secret and in small groups. So now we were willing to meet in the open. It was a bold move.
Well, the government wasn't going to let that happen, so instead of rounding them up and throwing them into jail, the authorities asked Shuang's leaders to go back indoors. They agreed, but finding a suitable place to meet on short notice was difficult. In a surprising move, the government stepped in and offered the church space in this building, a theater owned and operated by China's powerful People's Liberation Army. Liu Gang says it was a significant gesture, one that he and many others hope will pave the way for China's house churches to be legally recognized.
That's why we exist.
That's why you exist?
Yeah.
That's what you want. That's your ultimate goal?
Yeah.
To be recognized legally?
Yeah.
George Thomas, CBN News, in Beijing, China.
We'll be right back.
The doctor came in. I was still waking up from anesthesia. He leaned over my bed and he said, "Laura, you have cancer." And he walked out of the room. The first thought is, what's going to happen to my children?
It's pretty rare for a person as young as me to get Hodgkin's disease. Well, you would think, am I going to be here next year? Am I going to be able to spend more time with my family? And that was really hard.
The doctor says I would like to have his wife, his pastor, and his two best friends present. Then you know you're about to receive really bad news. There was very little hope given to us.
I just wanted this cancer out of me. I wanted to take care of it and move on.
We saw an ad on TV for Cancer Treatment Centers of America, and when I called them, I was very surprised that they were so quick to help us.
The second that we walked through the door, I knew that was the place that I wanted to be. If it wasn't for their kindness and giving, it would be unbearable to be able to go through something like that. And I honestly don't know how people who don't get that are able to handle it.
We were looking for medical care that would help us fight cancer, not manage it, but to actually fight it and beat it. And that's what we found.
Most people thought that that was a death sentence. I knew that I wanted to fight this. I knew I wasn't going to let that happen to me.
If you're a winner and you're a fighter and you're strong, you're going to stay that way. Your mental makeup, your attitude that you've taken your whole life with you, you're going to keep that attitude.
I said, let's just do it, and let me go on with my life.
Call now and we'll send you this free DVD that shows you how the most compassionate group of people anywhere puts you at the center of everything we do. Advanced medical treatment combined with unique supportive therapies give you treatment options you may not even know exist.
Cancer Treatment Centers of America is the way of the future. Patients are now taking control of their own healthcare destiny.
I truly wondered when he had cancer if I would ever get him back. Thanks to Cancer Treatment Centers of America, I have my husband back.
Finally this afternoon, no beach, no problem. Surfers in Germany are taking advantage of high water levels in the city's rivers. River surfing began in Munich about 30 years ago, but it has become increasingly popular as more and more professional surfers are heading to Germany to try it out. Ronaldo Fierson Surf Shop.
It's very important for guys who love surfing because the sea is very far away, and so they have kind of a, I would say, a chance to surf during during the weeks or during their all day.
You can ride the wave for ages and ages, and it's still challenging because you can always learn new stuff, and there are always guys coming up with new stuff.
The snowstorms paralyzing much of the country are also increasing water levels, meaning only one thing for Germany's river surfers: it's time to hit the waves. That's all for this edition of NewsWatch. You can find information on all the stories you've seen here at cbnnews.com. You can also stay up to date with CBN News through Facebook and Twitter. We welcome your email with comments and questions at newswatch@cbn.com. We hope you'll join us next time. Until then, have a great night.